The crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as Ambassador Krell stood before the assembly. His forearms trembled slightly, a gesture that did not go unnoticed by the hundreds of species representatives gathered in the vast amphitheater. The Valdoran Empire had just declared their intention to subjugate Earth, and Krell had requested an emergency session. Honored delegates, Krell began, his voice carrying across the chamber through universal translators. I stand before you not as a representative of my own people, but as one who has witnessed something that must be shared. The Valdoran Empire must reconsider their assault on the human homeworld. High Commander Valdek rose from his seat, his imposing figure casting shadows across the polished floor. The Valdoran warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, his exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights. The Terrans are a primitive species. They have barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their military consists of fragmented nation-states. They pose no threat to the might of the Valdoran Empire. Krell's antennae drooped, a sign of deep distress among his species. Commander, you speak of their technology and see weakness. But I have lived among them. I have studied their history. What you call primitive, they call determined. What you see as fragmentation, they call diversity of tactics. And Commander, there is something about humans you must understand. They do not simply defend. They pursue. The chamber fell silent. Several species shifted uncomfortably, remembering their own brief encounters with humanity. 5 cycles ago, Krell continued, the Zentari Confederation made a similar mistake. They raided a human colony on the edge of their space, took resources, destroyed infrastructure, captured several hundred colonists for their labor camps. The Zentari believed, as you do now, that humanity would accept this loss and move on. Ambassador Theta of the Zentari Confederation stood abruptly. That incident was resolved through diplomatic channels. We paid reparations. After how long, Ambassador Theta? Krell's voice carried an edge. After how many of your worlds found human stealth ships in their orbit? After how many of your supply lines were mysteriously disrupted? After how many of your military installations suffered inexplicable system failures? You paid reparations not because of diplomacy, but because the humans made it clear they would never stop coming. The assembled delegates murmured among themselves. Many had heard rumors of the Zentari incident, but few knew the full extent. Krell activated a holographic display. The humans have a saying, we can forgive, but we never forget. Their history is filled with examples. When their city of New York was attacked in their year 2001, they spent 2 decades hunting those responsible across their entire planet. When their ships were attacked at a place called Pearl Harbor, they rebuilt their entire military and did not stop until their enemies surrendered unconditionally. They are one species on one world, Valdek interjected. We are an empire spanning 50 systems. And they are a species that turned their entire moon into a military installation within 3 years of achieving faster-than-light travel, Krell responded. They are a species that weaponized their own waste products. They are a species that looked at the void of space, an environment that kills them in seconds, and decided to live there anyway. The hologram shifted to show Earth's military installations. Look at their history of warfare. They do not just defeat enemies. They study them. They learn from them. They become them if necessary. When faced with guerrilla tactics in their Vietnam conflict, they developed counterinsurgency doctrine that they still refine centuries later. When confronted with armored warfare, they created weapons that could destroy tanks from beyond visual range. When they discovered nuclear weapons, they built enough to destroy their own planet several times over, just to ensure mutual destruction. A younger Valdoran officer spoke up. You speak as if they are invincible. They are not. They bleed. They die. Yes, Krell agreed. They die. But that has never stopped them. Do you know what humans call a military force that suffers 90% casualties? They call it still combat effective. Do you know what they call a war that kills millions of their own kind? They call it Tuesday. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Several species representatives who had thought themselves warrior cultures looked disturbed. Krell continued, his voice growing more urgent. But here is what truly makes them dangerous, Commander Valdek. Humans pack bond with anything. Their soldiers form connections with their equipment, naming their vehicles and weapons. They form bonds with their units that transcend death itself, and when you attack one human, you attack all of them. Their population is barely 8 billion, Valdek said dismissively. 8 billion individuals who each possess the capability for both breathtaking compassion and terrifying vindictiveness, Krell countered. 8 billion minds that can hold grudges for generations. 8 billion beings who turned their first steps into space into a competition between superpowers, pushing themselves harder and faster than any reasonable species would dare. The hologram changed to show human emergency response statistics. When their planet faces natural disasters, humans from across their world send aid without being asked. When their space station experienced decompression, 3 nations that were technically at war with each other collaborated on the rescue. They are capable of unity that transcends all boundaries when faced with external threats. And more importantly, Krell added, they have a concept called total war. When pushed far enough, humans will convert their entire civilization into a weapon. Their factories will produce nothing but weapons. Their children will train for combat. Their elderly will manufacture ammunition. Their artists will create propaganda. Their scientists will develop horrors you cannot imagine. Ambassador Lyra of the Cephalon Republic stood. Ambassador Krell, you paint a picture of an unstoppable force, yet they have not conquered the galaxy. Because they have not chosen to, Krell said simply. Humans prefer trade to conquest, friendship to subjugation. They would rather sell you their entertainment programs and food products than take your worlds. But make no mistake, this is not weakness. This is choice. The hologram shifted once more, showing human colonial expansion. In the 5 cycles since achieving faster-than-light travel, they have established more colonies than species with 10 times their technological advancement. They terraform dead worlds not because they must, but because they are curious about whether they can. They sent generation ships into the void before they even knew if faster-than-light travel was possible, just because they refused to be confined. Valdek's scales shifted color, a sign of growing anger. You would have us fear these primitives. I would have you respect them, Krell replied. The Othani Empire thought as you do. They destroyed a human research vessel that had strayed into their territory. The humans sent one message: return our people. The Othani refused. Within 1 cycle, every Othani border world had human special forces teams broadcasting from their capital buildings. The message was always the same: return our people. The Othani returned the bodies and paid reparations. The humans said thank you and left. But the Othani know, as do all who have tested humanity, that the humans could have stayed. The humans have a military doctrine called proportional response, Krell continued. But they also have something called disproportionate response. Attack their civilians and they will turn your military to ash. Use biological weapons and they will show you diseases that would horrify the plague bearers of Xerxes. Deploy planet killers, and they will introduce you to something they call relativistic kill vehicles. Simple asteroids accelerated to near light speed that can crack worlds in half. The chamber had gone completely silent. Even Valdek seemed to be reconsidering. But most importantly, Krell said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper that still carried throughout the chamber, humans never stop. They tracked one of their own criminals for 40 years across their planet to bring him to justice. They still search for missing aircraft from wars that ended centuries ago. They maintain grudges from conflicts that predate their space age. If you assault Earth, if you take human lives, they will not stop when you retreat. They will not stop when you surrender. They will not stop until every human taken is accounted for, every death is answered, and every slight is balanced. Krell looked directly at Valdek. You can defeat humans in battle. You can destroy their ships, occupy their worlds, even bomb their homeworld. But you cannot make them stop coming for you. They will learn your language to curse you in it. They will study your anatomy to know exactly where to strike. They will infiltrate your society, turn your own people against you, and make you question everything you believe about warfare. They have a phrase, Krell said, addressing the entire assembly. It comes from their ancient history, from a warrior culture called Rome. Si vis pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. But humanity has updated this philosophy. Now they say, si vis pacem, be human's friend. If you want peace, be humanity's friend. The hologram disappeared and Krell stepped back. The choice is yours, Commander Valdek. Attack Earth if you wish. But know this. Humans forgive those who show them respect and offer friendship. They have elevated species from pre-space flight to galactic partners, simply because those species showed them kindness. But those who assault them, those who mistake their preference for peace as weakness, learn a terrible truth. Humans are persistence predators, Commander. Their ancestors hunted by simply following prey until it died of exhaustion, and they have not forgotten how to hunt. Valdek stood in silence for a long moment. The entire chamber waited. Finally, the Valderan commander spoke. The Empire will reconsider its position regarding Earth. As the assembly dispersed, whispers followed. Word would spread through the galaxy as it always did. Earth would remain untouched. Not because it was too weak to conquer, but because the cost of victory would be an enemy that would never, ever stop coming. Later, in his private chambers, Krell received a message from Earth's diplomatic corps. It was simple. "Thank you for your words, Ambassador. We hope they will not be tested." In friendship humanity, Krell shuddered. He had lived among humans for 2 cycles. He had seen their capacity for both great kindness and terrifying determination. He had told the truth in the chamber, but he had also held back. He had not told them about human persistence in small things, how they would spend years perfecting a recipe, decades mastering an art form, lifetimes pursuing knowledge. If they applied that same persistence to warfare, the galaxy would burn. The Valdoran Empire formally withdrew their declaration 2 days later. Earth's response was to invite them to a cultural exchange program. The Valdorans accepted, perhaps understanding finally that it was far better to be humanity's friend than their enemy. In the years that followed, the warning would echo through the galaxy's military academies and diplomatic schools. Do not assault the humans. They will never let you flee. Not because humanity was cruel, but because they were relentless. Not because they were warlike, but because they were protective. Not because they sought conquest, but because they never forgot those who wronged them. And so Earth stood, small and seemingly insignificant among the great powers of the galaxy, yet untouched, for every species knew the truth that Krell had spoken. You could defeat humans, perhaps. You could even occupy their worlds. But you could never make them stop. They would come for you across space and time itself, driven by a determination that transcended logic, powered by a unity that emerged only in the face of external threats. The humans continued their expansion through trade and friendship, their ships carrying goods instead of weapons, their colonies becoming melting pots of species. But every ambassador, every trader, every visitor to human space noticed the same thing. Behind the smiles, behind the welcoming gestures, behind the eager curiosity about other cultures, there was steel. Humanity had chosen peace, but they remained ready for war, and the galaxy, in its wisdom, chose to let them keep that peace.